welcome back to Maniacal Reader. Today I'm here with another end of the year video. Today I'm doing the end of the year reading survey 2017. I think there's a couple end of the year reading surveys going around. I saw this video on Becca from Awesome Book Nuts channel. I'll put a link to her video down below. I'm answering those questions in that reading survey. Let's get started. The first question is, what is the best book that you read in 2017? It has different genres for this question. For new adults, I have a few answers for this question. My first one would be Because of Low by Abby Glines. This is the second book in her Sea Breeze series. I read this series back in February, and I really loved it. I feel that these characters are my friends, and I loved seeing all the different relationships and all the different couples explored within this series. The next answer would be Sometimes It Lasts. This is another book in the Sea Breeze series by Abby Glines. My third answer would be Lovers Like Us by Christiane Becker-Ritchie. This is the second book in the Like Us series. And this second book continues Maximoff Hale's relationship with his bodyguard Pharaoh Keene. I read his book in October when it first came out. The next category is Dystopian or Post-Apocalyptic. And for this question, I'm going to have to go with The Maze Runner by James Dashner. I really loved the first book in this series. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, even though I had mixed feelings about the rest of this series. This first book was awesome. The next category is historical fiction. I haven't read historical fiction before, so this category isn't really applicable to me. The next category is paranormal. I didn't really read a lot of paranormal books in 2017, so this category doesn't really apply. The best sci-fi book that I read in 2017 would have to be Tempest by Julie Cross. This is the first book in a trilogy. This was a really awesome sci-fi book. It followed this guy named Jackson, who's a college student, with a girlfriend named Holly. Jackson is pretty much a normal guy, except for the fact that he can jump through time. When he jumps through time, nothing happens, and nothing changes in the present. Except one day, these two guys come into his dorm room and attack his girlfriend Holly. And he's so panicked by the event that he just leaves Holly. This time when he time jumps, he jumps 2 years in the past, and he needs to find out a way to get home and a way to save his girlfriend Holly. This was an awesome book. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The characters were amazing and the plot was action-packed. I really enjoyed my time while reading this book. It was awesome. A book that you thought you were going to love but didn't. For this question, I'm going to have to go with False Memory by Dan Krokos. This is a YA sci-fi book, and it's the first book in a trilogy. I was actually really looking forward to it, but I ended up giving this book 2 stars. I liked the premise of this book, but the book started off so slow, and we didn't really get an explanation as to what was really happening with the story until well into the book. I didn't really like that. Aside from the action and the plot, I didn't really like any of the characters, and I didn't really believe the romance in this book, so I was actually disappointed by this book, which is why I made it on my most disappointed books that I read in 2017 list. You can check out that video down below, or I'll put a card in this video. The next question is, most surprising book you read in 2017. For this, I'm going to have to go with The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. This is the first book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. And I did enjoy this first book, but I enjoyed the books in the rest of the series a lot more. This book and this series in general, I put off so many times in 2017, but in December I finally made a point to reading this series, and I'm glad I did. I really liked this series a lot. This series convinced me to jump on the Rick Riordan train, so I'll be reading a lot more of his books in 2018. The next question is, what book did you recommend the most to people in 2017? I read so many books this year, but a lot of people in my life don't read, and I usually tell people about the books that I like. I never convince them to read it, since a lot of people in my real life aren't readers, so I never push books on to people. But if I had to recommend books to people, it would definitely be the Addicted series and the Like Us series, and possibly A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. But that particular book isn't meant for everyone, since it's an angsty relationship. The next question is, best series you discovered in 2017. For For that, I'm going to have to go with the Thoughtless series by S.C. Stevens. This is the first book in a new adult romance series, and I really liked this series. This first book explored the relationship of a college student named Kira and her relationship with a rock star named Kellen Kyle. And there was a love triangle in this book, but I felt that this book realistically portrayed what it's like to be in a relationship when a girl has feelings for two guys. I really liked all the characters in this first book, and the angsty relationship between Kira and Kellen Kyle really made it for me. I was annoyed with Kira at times, but I could really feel the deep emotions that Kellen and Kira felt for each other. The next question is, best new authors you discovered in 2017. I have a few answers to this question. The first one would be Candy Steiner. I recently read her book, A Love Letter to Whiskey, in December, and I really loved it. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. This book follows a girl named Bee and her romance with a guy named Jamie. This book had an angsty relationship in it, and the timing for these two characters never seems right, so it takes a long time for them to get together. I loved how their relationship developed. This book was beautifully written. I would give it no less than 5 out of 5 stars. The next new author I discovered is Rick Riordan. For so long, I never read his books, but I wanted to read the Percy Jackson series for so long that in 2017 I finally did it. So he's a new author I discovered this year, and I'm glad I did. And the third author is Kimberly Durding. She wrote the Body Finder series, which is a YA paranormal fantasy series. I like the characters and the different plots throughout the books in this series. This series was like a paranormal mystery series. I really liked it. Since I really liked it, I'm planning on reading all of her books. She seems like a really good writer, and I'm interested in reading more from her. The next question is, best book that you read that was out of your comfort zone. And for me, this would have to be Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This is the first book in a YA fantasy series. Nearly everyone on BookTube has read this series. I'm glad I picked it up in 2017. Everyone has been raving about this series, and I really loved it. My favorite book in this series was Scarlet, but I really loved this series overall. The next question is, most thrilling book or unputdownable book that you read in 2017. This would definitely be A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. I was really captivated by this book, which is why I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I loved how the relationship developed in this book. I wanted to throw his book across the room at some points, but I really felt everything that the characters were feeling. This book was an emotional roller coaster, and this book kept me gripped from beginning to end. It was amazing. What is the book that had the greatest impact on you in 2017? And for this question, I'm going to have to go with Scorched by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the second book in a new adult romance duology. I just really felt everything that the main character, Andrea, was going through. Andrea has a little bit of a drinking problem, but she also struggles with anxiety, and she just went through some major character development in this book. She had to come to grips with who she was, and she had some distorted ideas about herself. And throughout this book, she works through all of that and finds her happy ending with a guy named Tanner, whom she really likes. I felt like I just connected with her on an emotional level. This book really had a good impact on me, and to this day I still think about that book. I remember it really well. The next question is, what is the book that you're most likely to read next year that you read in 2017? For me, that would have to be Thoughtless by S.C. Stevens. This was a really good book, and I loved how the relationship in this book developed. It almost made the favorites list of this year. And I definitely had a book hangover after reading this book. I didn't know what to do with myself after reading this book and the series in general. I just really loved the characters in this series, and I really felt like they were my best friends. I definitely connected with this series a lot, and I most likely will reread this book in 2018, maybe. The next question is, what's your favorite cover of a book that you read in 2017? For me, that would be Stay With Me by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I just really like the black and whiteness of this cover and how the girl and the guy on this cover are close together. The next cover I would choose is Damaged Like Us by Kristen Becker-Ritchie. I just love Maximoff Hale on the cover of this book. I just like his facial structure and the fact that he has such sharp cheekbones. I just really you like his face, and those green eyes are cute enough to melt in. Most memorable character in 2017. And for this question I would have to answer Jamie from A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. My second answer for this question would be Gray Grayson from The Friend Zone by Kristen Callahan. This is the second book in a football college romance series. I just really like the fact that Gray Grayson is a good guy, and he's such a good friend to Ivy in this book. This book was a good friend to Lover's Romance, and he really cares about the people around him, so I really loved his character. The next question is, book you can't believe you waited to read until 2017. For me, the easiest answer would be The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, and just the Percy Jackson series in general. I wanted to read that series for years, but in December of 2017, I finally pushed myself to read that series, and I'm glad I did. What is a favorite quote or a passage from a book that you read in 2017? There are so many wonderful quotes out there, and I don't really keep track of quotes per se, but the memorable good quotes would have to be from my new adult romance books. I just really like the strong quotes in there, or a strong piece of dialogue that a character says. Since I like romance and relationships, I can think of a lot of good quotes coming from those books. What is the shortest and longest book that you read in 2017? The shortest book would be When We Fall by Kendall Ryan. This is the third book in a new adult romance trilogy. And the longest book would be Winter by Marissa Meyer. What is a book that had you reeling and dying to talk to somebody about it? This would have to be A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. This was such an amazing book. This book has appeared 3 or 4 times in this video so far, so if you want to read one book from this video, this would be the book I recommend. The next question is, a favorite relationship from a book that you read in 2017. A romantic relationship, a familial relationship, and a friendship relationship. For romance, I would have to pick Gray Grayson and Ivy Mackenzie. I already mentioned how much I love Gray, but I also like his dynamic with Ivy. At the beginning of this book, they become such good friends, but when they start to develop feelings for each other, their romance is explosive. I really liked the slow development of their relationship. This is definitely my favorite book in this series. Friendship, I don't really have an answer for this question. I can't really think of characters that have a good friendship. In terms of a familial relationship, I actually reread the Addicted series in 2017, and the familial relationship that pops out to me the most would have to be between Rike and Lauren Hale. At the start of the series, the relationship between Lauren and Rike is rocky and touchy, but as the series progresses, these characters develop a deep bond and a deep love for each other. The next question is, favorite book that you read in 2017 from an author you've read previously? For this question, I would have to go with Lovers Like Us by Kristen Becker-Ritchie. The next question is, book that you read based solely on a recommendation from somebody else. I don't really have a book that somebody recommended to me, but I know that Jessica from Peace Love Books really likes Candy Steiner as an author, so she's the one that really encouraged me to finally check out her books. She talks about Candy Steiner a lot in her videos, so that finally encouraged me to read something from Candy Steiner, and I'm glad I did. I'll definitely be checking out more from Candy Steiner in the future. The next question is, genre you read the most from in 2017. The genre I read the most in 2017 would be new adult romance, but I'm hoping to change that in 2018. I love new adult romance, it's one of my favorite genres, but I'm hoping to read more from other genres that I'm interested in, and not place my focus so heavily on new adult romance. So hopefully that changes in 2018. Newest fictional crush from a book that you read in 2017. There are so many since I read a lot of new adult romance, but the number one crush of the year I would have to say would be Kellen Kyle from the Thoughtless series. He made such an impact on me and was just so smooth, and he really loved Kira. He really had strong feelings for her, but he also struggled with some things in his past, so I really felt for him on an emotional level. He would be my newest fictional crush for sure this year. best debut you read in 2017. I don't really read a lot of debut authors. I don't think I read any this year. The next question is, book that had the most vivid imagery that you read in 2017. For this question, I'm going to have to go with the Firebird trilogy by Claudia Gray. This is a YA sci-fi trilogy, and this trilogy is about a girl who, with the help of a device called the Firebird, has the ability to travel to different parallel universes. I loved the way that the author described all these different parallel universes and the differences and similarities between them. She vividly described these worlds so clearly that it was easy to distinguish when certain characters would travel to different worlds because there would be visual differences between each of them. The next question is, what book did you have the most fun reading in 2017? For this question, I'm going to have to go with The Maze Runner by James Dashner. I just really enjoyed figuring out who these boys were, discovering how they solved the maze. The Maze Runner was definitely the most fun and my favorite out of the series. The next question is, a book that made you cry in 2017. For this question, I'm going to have to answer Addicted After All by Christiane Beccarecci. This was actually a reread for me, since I read this book before 2017. But I really liked how Lo and Lily's relationship is wrapped up in this book. I don't really cry a lot in books. I usually tear up during emotional moments, but there was one scene in this book that made me cry a lot, like full-on tears. I'm really glad that I reread this book this year. It was definitely worth it. The next question is, name one book that you didn't get to in 2017, but is your number one priority in 2018. For this question, I'm going to have to go with Partials by Dan Wells. It's the first book in a YA post-apocalyptic trilogy. My second answer for this question would be Easy by Tamara Weber. This is the first book in a new adult romance series, and I'm actually planning on reading this series next, after I finish the Partials trilogy. The next question is, name one book that you want to read in 2018 that's non-debut. For this question, I would have to choose The Final Six by Alexandra Monier. This is a YA sci-fi book. The next question is, what book are you most anticipating in 2018 that is a debut? For this question, I'm going to have to go with Where I Live by Brenda Ruffiner. This is a YA contemporary book. I believe it follows a girl who is homeless, and she's just trying to deal with her situation and her home life. This sounds like an emotional contemporary I would be interested in reading. The next question is, what series ending are you anticipating the most in 2018? For me, that would have to be the final Throne of Glass book by Sarah J. Maas. I read the first 4 books in this series, but it's definitely a series that I've been waiting to be complete for a while. The final question is, what is one thing you want to accomplish in your reading or booktubing in 2018? This question I would have to say, read most or all of Sarah Dessen's books. I want to get into more YA contemporary in 2018, and Sarah Dessen is one author that I want to start with. I've read a couple of her books in the past, and I definitely want to familiarize myself with her as an author. Those are all of the questions for the end of the year survey. I hope you guys enjoyed my answers to these questions. Comment down below and tell me what some of your answers to these questions might be. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one.